for some people to jump on. Hey, Melissa. Faithful Melissa. Give it a little bit of time. The animals are very loud tonight. I feel like a Disney princess. Because we have like birds and frogs and crickets and all kinds of crazy stuff chirping and making noises right now. Hopefully y'all had a good weekend. If you're a mom, happy Mother's Day. I need the bugs to go away. I have little things out here to make the bugs go away, but they're not gone yet. I should have turned them on earlier. Why? Hey, Tommy. Go away now. So, let me get a little bit more time. Now I hear geese. I don't know if y'all can hear those, but it's kind of funny. Hey, Kathy. Steph. Yay. Give it a little bit more time. Not much. Hope everyone had a good weekend, like I said. We managed to lose a dog for about an hour yesterday. That was miserable. Other than that, the weekend was good. I don't think anything else weird happened. But he came back. We found him. So that was good. But we will do a better job of not letting him out of our sight ever again, probably. So, okay. Well, I'm going to go ahead and get started. Like I said, hopefully these bugs will go away in a second. I have my little bug thingies going. So tonight is Savvy for Big Girl Moms. And just like I say every week, if the title doesn't sound like it's something that applies to you, there's still things in here that you can get out of it. Because basically this book is just teaching us how to treat people and how to act in general. So it gets specific, but the things that we're learning we can apply to other relationships in our life. So let's see. We will start. It says, finding the solution that every real mom needs. And she starts off by talking about a situation in which when her son was little, he basically broke a glass table, and she freaked out, she fussed, and even in the process of it, she yelled, "You're going to have to pay for this." And her son was like, "But I'm just a little boy, I don't even have a job." And at that moment, she realized how silly what she said was. Basically that's what made her snap back. And she said, I didn't need to heap my frustrations on him, but for a split second, I forgot that I was the adult. And I can't tell you how many times that has happened and will happen if you are not a parent yet. But so many times, things that seem so important and so upsetting, or so, this is the time you need to teach a lesson or whatever, after it's over, I can't tell you the number of times that I've been like, that was just stupid. Why do I even care? It doesn't matter. I think I got a little better about that with Allie, but poor Matt, he was our test child, like most first children are. Definitely would have done things different for him, and I did for Allie because of the stupid mistakes I made with him, and then I made new stupid mistakes with Allie. So anyway, parenting is not perfect. Life is not perfect. You do what you can do, and you realize, and you keep moving forward. So, which is why we're all doing this book study right now. She said, if I have any regrets about being the parent of my 3 sons, I guess it would be that I wasn't a big girl mom from the beginning. And I 100% would agree with that. Especially with your first child, because, and a friend and I were talking about it today, it's like the first one, I wanted Matt to walk fast. I wanted him to talk, early. I wanted him to do all these things bigger and better than everybody else. And looking back, it didn't matter. He's going to learn how to talk. He's going to learn how to walk anyway. I guess, honestly, it was more of I wanted to feel like, ooh, I'm the great mom or whatever. And I didn't realize that's what I was doing at the time. It says, let's see, I'm grateful that we all survived pretty intact, But it was not because I acted like a big girl all of the time. And that's absolutely true. Even when you're a big girl, it's pretty hard to do it all the time. You're still going to make mistakes. And, you know, I was telling someone too, you know, I'm so proud of my kids. I have amazing kids. But a lot of times I think it's in spite of me instead of because of me. And, you know, when you can realize that, I don't know, you just feel like a failure, and then you feel better, and then it's life. It's just something we have to figure out together. So it says a little girl mom can do a lot of damage even though her children are resilient. Because she talked about generally we have a little more leeway with kids than we realize because they are pretty resilient, but we don't want to take advantage of that. It says their ability to bounce back can get used up if their mother's girlishness is relentless. Her children make her feel good or bad about herself, depending on how they act or react, which is what I was basically describing, how stupid I was at the beginning. It says little girl moms, for example, put a lot of emphasis on how their children make them look. And if you can realize, you know, I mean, it's a mom thing. When they're little, you show them off, and, you know, they have new things that they learn and things that you think are so cute. And you get out in front of people and you're like, hey, do this, do that, and they just look at you. It's like, okay, it doesn't matter anyway. But you don't realize that when your kids are little a lot of times. And like I said, it's the little girl mom in you that is more concerned about, you know, oh, I want to impress people, or look what my kid can do. And a lot of moms don't grow out of that. And even as big kids, when they have big kids, it's still, you know, oh, my kid's the best at this and that. If your kid's really that good, other people are going to know. And, you know, with Matt playing sports and stuff, you know, you see a lot of times that, and I'm probably guilty of this at times too, but, you know, you think that your kid is the best and whatever, but you don't have to tell other people. If someone really is a certain way, you don't have to go on their behalf. You don't have to tell about it, because it's whatever, you know, whether it's a character issue, whether it's whatever, it's going to show. And so you don't have to brag on your kids or yourself or whatever, even though it's hard, especially when they're amazing. But, and I do want to point out too that, you know, not everyone thinks your kid is as cute or as amazing as you do. And one thing that was important to me was that I wanted other people to like my kids. And so even when I didn't want to, and I was probably, like I said, I was probably too strict on Matt, but even when I didn't want to make them mine, I didn't want to take that time or whatever, it was important to me that other people wanted to be around them. And so I just want to encourage you, you know, I'm not saying be overly strict, but things that your kids do that you think is, you know, really cute and whatever, might be getting on some other people's nerves. And if they're bratty and if they talk back and they're disobedient or whatever, you know, there's a difference in being playful and silly and just straight up disrespectful. But if you're letting your kid do that, what you're doing is setting them up so that people don't like them and they don't want to be around them, and eventually won't want to be around you because you're not taking, you know, charge of your kids or whatever. So just thought I would throw that one in there. I just want you to keep that in mind. And she addresses it. She says, you know, people that let their children go wild, never acknowledging that other people might be bothered by their children's antics, those are little girl moms. And then there's the mom that, you know, tries to make everything perfect and go overboard of, you know, you sit, you don't move, you don't whatever. But there's a happy medium in the middle of there. There's something in between those two extremes. It says a big girl mom knows how to give them enough freedom to grow and explore without her hovering over them. There is, I mean, you have to take, they're your kids for a reason. You have to take responsibility. You have to help them. But it's not a control issue. It's not, you still have to give them the freedom and let them play and remember how old they are all the way along the way, because at different ages, there are different things that matter. It says a big girl mom knows that the big picture of motherhood is not about her children's behavior, nor is it about her. The big picture is about her heart for God and her desire for her children to find a vital relationship with Him. And honestly, when it comes down to it, that's what matters. I think these bug things are getting in my throat, so I'm going to push them away for a second. Sorry about that. Let's see. A big girl mom knows that relationship is the most important issue that she will deal with. Because when her children are grown, no matter what path they choose to walk, she wants a relationship with them. She wants a relationship with them, and she wants them to have a relationship with God if we're focusing on what matters in the long run. So just kind of keep that in mind that that's the ultimate goal, is you want to have a relationship with them throughout your life, and you want them to have a relationship with God so that you can have a relationship beyond this life, which is what's more important anyway. So, principles for big girl moms of young children. Big girl moms know that healthy relationships are nourished by boundaries. Little girl moms focus on the relationship right now with no view toward the future. And that's a really good description. It says, and she goes ahead and talks about, you need to decide what your parenting style is. And if you didn't do it early, just do it now. Just start now, and it may take some adjustment if you have not had, rules or a focus, a plan. It may take a second to get everyone on board with that because they're not used to that. So be patient as your kids are adjusting to all of a sudden, oh, this is how we're going to do things. It says a parenting style is the way that you and your spouse have determined to work with your children to bring them into maturity. And that's one thing that's important. If you are married, you need to decide together, this is what's important to us. And you focus on what's important, and the things that aren't important, let it slide. Don't constantly be on your kids. She says parenting is not about you. When you're a big girl, parenting is not about you, your anger, or your childhood issues. That's huge. It says it's not about what you don't like in your child, yourself, or your husband. It's about your child's welfare, their success as a human being, and their obedience to what is right. And again, it's just simply, it's about your kid. It's not about you. Just because you had issues, it's real easy to either fall into the habit of repeating them, or to go so far the extreme because it's not going to be, my kid's not going to have that, it's going to be different. Just because you weren't happy with what you had doesn't mean the total opposite is what's good. So make sure that there's a balance in there and you don't swing too far away from it to the point that you let them go the other direction. And, she talks about, too, that she had a growth moment. One of her kids, when he was a baby, was just screaming, throwing a fit, couldn't get it to stop. And she said that all of a sudden she had a realization, this is my child and I'm his mother. And that's kind of what it comes to. When you feel like you're losing control, you have to realize this is your child. Regardless of how you feel on the inside, you have to take care of this child. And I had the exact same moment with Matt, and then it actually repeated with Allie. I got there sooner because I'd been through it with Matt. But when he, was 8 weeks old, I went back to work. And he still was adjusting. He was having trouble at night sleeping, and he was crying, and I'm holding him and rocking him and crying with him, and Tommy was working at night, so I'm crying, and I'm thinking I'm going to have to get up and go to work. I'm going to be tired. This is going to get worse. And it just was one of those nights that I was about to absolutely fall apart. And then it hit me, it's not always going to be like this. He's not always going to do this. He's not going to be 12 years old and still crying in the middle of the night. But then it also hit me, it's not always going to be like this. I'm not always going to be able to hold him and rock him and love on him and be his comfort. And so you kind of have to keep that in mind, no matter what your situation is, try to find the part of the season of your life that you're in that you can enjoy and that you can appreciate. And stop automatically thinking, oh, this is horrible. Yes, a crying, screaming baby in the middle of the night when you're tired is not a good thing. But like I said, they're not always going to come to you in the middle of the night needing you. And so, just try to enjoy it. And that helped calm me down. And when I calmed down, he was able to calm down. And like I said, Allie started it one time, and I didn't have to work with her. But I still, I was tired and I had things that I needed to do. But then I was like, okay, wait a minute, slow down, learn from what you did silly the first time and just enjoy this and just love on them while you can. And it's amazing when you can stay calm. And this is at any age. If you can be that calming, peaceful force, your kids are going to calm down a lot faster. And they're going to know when they need that feeling, they're going to know who to come to. So that's just, that's just a precedent that you're setting early on when you don't even realize it yet. She said I would be responsible, very responsible for a long time, and then I would have to let go. And that's the part that we're going to get to at the end. And not the favorite part, not the fun part. It says letting go is something that we can only do when we realize that parenting is not about us. Absolutely. If we can keep our focus on what we're doing is because we love our children, we want what's best, and we want what's best for our children, we're going to do a better job. And, you know, it talks about the story in the Bible of Hannah who, you know, couldn't have a child. She wanted a child so bad. And she basically said, God, you know, if you'll just give me a child, I will give him back to you. And she literally meant, I will take him to someone that will raise him so that you can use him, you know, in the church, basically. It wasn't just, you know, I mean, we a lot of times, you know, forget to put our kids in God's hands. This woman literally was putting her kid in God's hands because she was giving him away. But she wanted him so bad that she was willing to just have that little bit of time with him as opposed to no time at all. And God did bless her, and he did use her son. She said that she knew that Samuel did not come into this world for her, but for God, and he belonged to the Lord. And honestly, that's all of our children. It's not to that extreme, but God, he blesses us with our kids, but our kids are here because they have a purpose and they have a reason. And we just get to go along for the ride and hopefully enjoy it and make memories and, you know, build that strong foundation that can help them in the long run. It says, I have dedicated him to God. He's dedicated to God for life. And that's what we need to do. You know, we don't have to do it physically a lot of times, and that's the good part. But we have to be willing to give him to him. It says, if your child lives under your roof, then your rules apply to that child's life. If your child leaves your roof, then that means that they also leave your financial input into his life, then they're no longer under your rules. And that's something that, you know, parents have a hard time with a lot of times. And we'll get into that again with the whole letting go. But do realize that if your child is under your roof, you still get to make the rules. Don't make rules just to make rules, but you have to decide what's important, like I said earlier, and that's what you go by. You know, if it's important that your child goes to church with you, if it's important that your child treats people a certain way, whatever it is, it's okay to take that authority, you know. And a lot of times we want to be our kid's friend, but if we're willing to set the rules that are going to be best for them, they're going to, even if they get mad at the time, in the long run, they're going to come back and realize that what you were doing was something that was making them a better person in general. Let's see. But big girl moms understand the value of building fences and avoiding leashes. Fences are boundaries that keep children safe while giving them room to play. Leashes are restrictive tethers that keep the parent and the child tied to one another. And, you know, that explains the two extremes. You know, you can set boundaries, you can set healthy boundaries, but don't be controlling. You know, set the rules, follow the rules, but don't have to absolutely control every aspect of their life. Because when you do that, that also keeps you tied to them, and there's a point that they need to be healthy enough to move on and take care of things themselves. Let's see. You know, and it talks about fence boundaries. They give plenty of space to explore with lots of security. And that's the point of the boundaries. You know, let them figure out who they are, let them explore, let them learn how to do things, but keep it, you know, stay involved, basically. Know what your kids are doing. Stay involved, hold them accountable, and then the more they build up that trust, let those boundaries expand. Let's see. And, you know, one thing that I do, didn't have the technology to do it with Matt, but with Allie on the, being bombed by bugs now, with her texts, she shares her location with me so that I'm always able to find out where she is. She tells me where she is, and I totally trust her. I know she's going to be there, but I still go in and I check every once in a while, and she knows that I check. And I think hopefully just the fact that she knows I'm going to check holds her accountable. You know, if she's tempted to do something she's not, or go somewhere she's not supposed to go, or, you know, she can use that as an excuse if her friends are trying to get her to, is, you know what, I'm going to get busted, so it's not even worth it. You know, if she needs that excuse, she has that excuse. Like I said, stay involved, know where your kids are, but let them build that trust. And if they are trustworthy, let them have a little bit more freedom. And she knows too, you know, once she does something to cross that trust, we're going to back it up. You know, it's not going to be like, oh, no big deal. There are consequences. It says, as your child grows, you loosen your control. Age-appropriate discipline and character development are what the process is about. And that's just what I was saying earlier. Remember how old they are every time along the way, and make the punishment, make the expectations, all of that stuff, make it fit whatever stage of life that they're in. The next one's consistency matters. And this one, I mean, I have a lot of things highlighted, but I'm basically, consistency matters. If you say something, follow through with it. And if you make a rule and then you decide, that's silly, why am I doing that? It's okay to go to them and say, I know I said this, let's rethink it, let's decide what's important. You don't have to stick to it just because you said it, but if it's important and you said it, stick to it. Kids know if you say something, they know if you mean it or not. And if you don't mean it, they're not going to follow it. They're not going to mind. But if you are consistent, even when it's hard, it's easier a lot of times to just, you don't want to mess with it. But for your kids' sake, you have to be consistent. And I'm going to have to bring this back because the bugs are getting me again. It says, and make sure that you're real. Don't ask them to live up to certain standards if you're not willing to yourself. And, Tommy has said a lot of times he remembers, he doesn't remember the things his dad told him to do, but he remembers what his dad did. He remembers the example. So your kids are watching. And if you're telling them, don't talk about people, whatever, and then they hear you talk about people, or don't be ugly and judgmental, and they see you be ugly and judgmental, it means nothing to them, and it makes them resentful, if nothing else. And, also about the boundaries and the holding them accountable and being consistent. Start as early as you can with those little talks of, real early. I always, literally had the conversation with both of my kids of, you can always come to me. And I've told them, first of all, if you come to me with the truth, it's going to be a lot better on you than if I find out and you didn't tell me. But also, I've told them, it doesn't matter what it is. I'm always going to love you. I may freak out inside for a second, but I'm going to come back and we're going to deal with whatever your problem is because you're my child and I love you. And I literally had those conversations and those words came out of my mouth so that they knew, before they even get in those situations, once they're there, it wasn't oh, can I talk to mom and dad? What's going to happen? It was, I know I can go to them and they're going to help me. And the cool thing is it also spilled over to their friends because they both have sent friends to me, or they just know we're going to be there because we started that early. So if you haven't started it, go ahead and have that conversation now and say, I'm sorry I didn't have this conversation earlier, but this is how I feel and I should have told you this. But then you have to hold yourself accountable to that. If they come to you with something really big, you have to, like I said, I told them I may freak out for a second, but I promise I'm going to come back and we're going to deal with it. So be willing to do that regardless of what they come tell you. Not every battle is worth fighting. And that one's pretty true too. It's very true. With Matt, again, I think I was too strict. I think I set expectations too high for him. And so looking back, I'm like, a lot of the things that I got onto him for is because I thought I was supposed to. I thought, kids aren't supposed to do this. Kids are supposed to do this. And the more I got into it, I realized what mattered and what didn't matter. So Allie's reaping a lot of benefits from this whole. Fortunately, I didn't mess Matt up too bad because he's a really good kid. But again, like I said, it was in spite of me, not because of me for the most part. It says it's all right for children to be angry, but they must be angry in a respectful way. So the things that she's saying matter. Number one is respect. You have to treat people with respect, and I think that's awesome. Again, if your kid is the one that's slapping you and hitting you and fighting and screaming at you and whatever, you are setting them up for failure. And unfortunately, that seems to be more the norm lately. And I'm not talking about kids that have, behavioral issues or learning issues, or I'm not talking about that. I'm just talking about straight up, if your kid has the ability to mind and they are not minding and you're letting them get away with it. Unfortunately, it's the kids that are respectful and that, can look an adult in the eye and can talk and have conversations. Those are the ones that stand out. So if you want your child to be someone that people look up to and want to be around, go ahead and teach them those things. And it's hard sometimes because you don't want to. You want to be their friend. You don't want to get onto them, but you have to. And I like here too, it says a child needs to be told why. Don't just set all these rules and then expect them just to follow them. If you really want them to follow and understand, take the time to explain to them. And, I've told my kids too, especially when they were younger, they would ask questions, and for the most part I would explain, but I did tell them, as much as I'm willing to tell you, when there are times that I say, I just need you to do this and trust me, because I'm willing to talk to you, I need you to just do this and trust me, and we'll come back to it later. So it's not like you have to take a long conversation every single time. Sometimes there's not time for that. But one is respect, and the second is truth and truthfulness. Trust and truthfulness. Let me slow down. And again, it's just, you tell the truth. Be honest with me, and then we'll deal with it. And then the last section, and I've tried to go a little faster tonight because I've been taking too long for sure. But the last section is principles for big girl moms of grown children. And it starts out simply by saying, let go. And I realized as I was studying, this is the first time that I've gone through this book that I've actually been in this stage of life. My son just graduated from college this weekend. He'll be 22 tomorrow, which is absolutely mind-blowing to me. But he's at that age, and it says, although it's a healthy thing to do, letting go of children just doesn't feel right. And it doesn't, especially if you built a really close relationship with your kids. But it says letting go is a process, not a one-time event. And so it took me a while to get it. And, during their teenage years really is when it starts. And I was so freaked out about, no, I want to be close to my kids. I pushed too hard, and I caught myself starting to do that again with Allie. It's like I wanted to force them to stay with me and to hang out with me and whatever. But you have to start that process of letting go, because it's the healthy thing to do, is for them to eventually be amazing adults all on their own. And then they come to you to hang out and for advice and for fun, and you're not responsible for them anymore. But that's a good thing. That's not a bad thing. But it's a process. So when you realize it's that time, if you can start letting go. I just got buzzed by a hummingbird too. Like I said, I feel like a Disney princess tonight. I have lots of animals in the background. Now they're bombing me and doing flybys. But it says, big girl moms know that this is okay. It's the way it should be. They don't kick against it and make it into some awful event. This is what you've worked for. And again, you don't make it about you. And that's what you're doing if you really start fighting it. It's difficult to face the fact that you're no longer needed in the same way that you once were. And that's normal, especially as moms. We want to always be there. We want to always fix things. You can still always be there. You just have to do it on a different level. And, I had a friend, I have a friend at work that has made the comment that, a lot of times when kids go off to college or graduate college and have to move away for a job or whatever, the parents that are the most messed up about it and that are, like really stressed and sad and like almost depressed, if you'll look back, a lot of times those are the parents that have regrets because they didn't spend the time along the way that they should have, making the memories, getting to know their kids, making sure that they were present as parents. But if you do those things and you slow down now and realize I'm not going to have them with me forever, so enjoy them while I can, it's not fun because you don't want to, you always, as a mom, you just want your kids with you. But if you have that confidence that, I've done the best I can do, we made those memories, they know they can come to me, they know that I love them, then it's a lot easier to let them move on, and you can actually be excited for them because you know that they're about to go on a new adventure, it's a new season in their life. And instead of making them feel bad for you because you're sad, you can just be excited and cheer them on and be encouraged, be an encourager for them. But also the things that you have to do are that you have to give up responsibility and you have to set boundaries. And giving up responsibility, that's hard. You have to let your kids start making their own decisions. You can be there to answer questions, be there when they need you, but you have to pull back some. And in talking about boundaries, it says, big girl moms know and understand this. Little girl moms will kick against this and get their feelings hurt. If you're getting your feelings hurt, you're making it about you, which is what we're trying to avoid. So I'm just going to read some of the boundaries that she's put in here, just to let you think about them. One, if you live in the same town, always call before dropping in. Make it clear that you would like for them to do the same. This builds mutual respect. I don't care if they let me know I want them to come if they want to come, quite honestly. But I know not to just show up. You know, I'll text Matt and say, you know, hey, are you home? Can I run this by? Whatever. And Tommy's parents have always lived in another town since we've been married. But that's one thing that I appreciate about my parents is they've never, you know, been overbearing. They don't just show up. They don't get in our business. They're there to, you know, if we want to hang out and we want to spend time, they're there. But they've never forced themselves on us. They don't try to get in our finances. They don't try to get in our parenting, you know, that kind of stuff. So do that for your kids. That goes a long way. It says be interested but not nosy about their lives. I have to be careful about that. I caught myself, you know, when I was missing Matt, when we first started living apart, every time we'd talk, I would questions. And finally he was like, okay, that's enough questions. Wait till next time. And I realized what I was doing. It's because I missed him. It's because I missed knowing everything about his life. I don't have to know everything. And I did realize that once I started backing off and stopped, you know, asking him every single time, you know, what is this? What are you doing? Where are you going? You know, all these kind of things. And it wasn't that I minded anything he was doing. I just wanted to know because I missed him. But I realized when I stopped hounding him with all the questions, he started giving me information. You know, he started calling and talking to me and telling me, hey, you know, this is what's going on or whatever. And I took what he wanted to tell me, and I didn't keep pushing. And that's something, like I said, I still work on that because I care and I want to be involved. But I have to realize I have to back off. I have to let him grow. We're still in relationship. I'm not missing anything. He still comes around, you know, he still talks to us. And when he needs us, he knows that we're here. He knows that we love him. He knows that we are his safe place still. So, the next one, if they ask for your counsel, give it. If they don't, and you feel that you have some wisdom to contribute, you can say, you know, if you don't mind me giving you advice, I'd like to tell you something. But give them the right to say, not now. You know, don't force yourself on them. Next, it's imperative to respect your child's mate. That's very important. You know, even if you, for some reason, think you don't like the person that your child is with, you need to find a way to like them because there's something about them that your child loves. And if you don't want to push your child away, you need to make this work. And I realize there are some people out there that it's just not going to work with, but you at least have to try. Do your part. It says if your children are not married, try to refrain from asking them when they plan to marry. Something Tommy needs to work on. He's advertising for Matt and doing all kinds of stuff, basically. But you don't want to put pressure on them. You don't want to make them feel like, you know, oh, you don't want to point out the fact that they don't have someone. And then they start, you know, well, maybe I'm not good enough, or maybe I'm lonely, or whatever. Just don't put that pressure on them. And what I tell Tommy, I know she's out there because I've prayed for her for 22 years now. She's out there. It's going to come, and us forcing and pushing and whatever, we could end up pushing someone away or pushing him away from someone just because we're trying to be in his business. See, 2 more. It says, when you have grandchildren, be a big girl grandmother by following your child's wishes about what your grandchildren eat, drink, play with, and watch. A lot of grandparents think, oh, well, I'm the grandparent, I don't have to make them follow rules. But if you really care about your kids, you're going to love and support them. And you'll be able to let them get away with more than you would if they were their parent, if you were the parent. But you still have to realize that you need to follow the rules that your kids have set that are important to them. And it's a matter of respect. It's a matter of loving your kids still. And even if you don't agree with how they do things or what their rules are, it's still their kids. They're not your kids. You get to play with them, and you get to, if you want to continue to be around them and you want to spend that time, you need to respect and follow the rules that their parents have set. And then the last one is don't preach. It says, by the time your children are grown, they know the truth about spiritual matters. If they've not already embraced the faith that you taught them, continual preaching is not going to change them now. Love them, pray for them, and be an example of the goodness of God in their lives. That will do far more to turn their hearts toward God than all the preaching you could do. And I've lived that, you know, with Tommy. The early years that I was pushing, you know, are you going to go to church with me? Are we going to do this right? Are we going to do whatever? All I was doing was pushing him away and making him defensive. But then when I finally realized, that it wasn't working, and I just started loving on him. And, you know, if I wanted to go to church, I was going to church. I didn't bug him. I didn't make him feel guilty about it. That's when he was finally able to relax and say, okay, I want what she has. And your kids are the same way. You know, for the most part, you've probably taught them. And if you haven't had a chance to teach them, start teaching them by your example. Your example speaks so much more than hounding someone and pushing them and, you know, just beating them over the head. And yes, there will be times that you can preach to them safely, you know, without making them feel threatened. But that's where the praying for them and listening to God and letting Him open doors and recognizing the opportunities that He's given you, that's where that all comes into play. So, anyway, I think I got through this at a better time tonight. It says, being a big girl mom has so many payoffs. Your children will more than likely respect you, but just as importantly, you will respect yourself for being a parent and not a child. And just remember they're your kids. You're responsible for them, but don't be controlling. Don't be overbearing. Don't set rules just to set rules. Teach them the things that are going to make them better people. Teach them the things that are going to make them better adults. You know, there's a big controversy, you know, about the whole everyone gets a trophy kind of stuff. My thing about that is, at some point in life, something's not going to work out for them. And if I can teach them how to deal with it while they're still with me and while it's still a safe place and they still have that guidance, I would rather do that than to all their whole life let them think, hey, everybody's the same, everything's I'm the best, everything's okay. And then you send them out into the workforce and they realize, you know, they're not what they thought they were. And then as adults, they don't have those coping mechanisms or whatever. You know, that's an example of something that's important to us that we want to help our kids through while we're still around to help them. So, you know, just pick whatever it is that's important to you. I'm not telling you what your rules should be, but decide what's important. What are the character issues that you want to build and make strong in your kids? Focus on that, live that, and it's all going to be fine. And I guess one final thing, I did want to encourage you, you know, as they go through the whole teenage, not always rebellion, but where they're trying to learn to start separating. The thing that I freaked out about with Matt was, I mean, we had always been super, super close. He always came to me. He'd always talked to me. And he still was for the most part, but there were, you know, those walls were building up. And so I start freaking out, you know, about, but I always want us to be close, and I want us to be that family that, you know, the kids, everyone comes and hangs out with us. And even as adults, you know, they bring kids over to us just to hang out and to be with us. And I thought I was losing that, you know, when Matt, you know, and I started, you know, the conflict of he's trying to grow up. I don't want him to grow up. He's pushing me. I'm pushing him. And I guess my encouragement of that is when you get to that point, slow down, realize that that's part of the process, and they're going to come back around. I mean, Matt and I feel like are just as close as we've ever been, but there was a time there that I really thought I've lost him. You know, he can't stand me. We fight all the time, whatever. But when you go through those times, if you will not overreact and not go overboard, and you'll just calm down and realize that it's going to pass, I promise it's going to pass. So hopefully that was helpful to someone that might be going through that now. But anyway, that's it for tonight. We'll be back next Monday. And the next chapter is Freedom for Big Girlfriends. This may take 2 weeks, I'm not sure, because this is my favorite chapter in the whole book, because this is something that women either do really well or do really wrong, and I want us to all do it really well, because we need each other. So y'all have a good rest of the week, and I will be back Monday, Wednesday night at 7. Tommy will be here with the midweek Bible study, and we just love and appreciate you guys. Just continue to pray for us. If, you know, like Tommy says, if this is your church and you feel comfortable supporting us, obviously we need your funds, we need your offerings and tithes and whatever, if this is your church. If this is not your home church, we don't want your tithe. But if you're getting something out of this, if you're getting a benefit and you feel like supporting us, we have ways of doing that on Facebook or on our website, and just helps us be able to devote the time to this, and we want to be able to continue to minister, and we have some ideas in the communities that we're wanting to do too. So anyway, y'all have a great rest of the week. And if you need me, send me a message and we'll talk. Love you guys. Bye.